Hello and welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Cultured Nerd Podcast. This week, episode 35, we're going to talk about something that's been kind of escalating more and more and more over the last better part of 2023, and that is everyone, and I mean everyone on the internet, seems to be blaming James Gunn specifically for everything that's happening with DC. Every film they make, every misfire that they have, apparently James Gunn is the one to blame. But is he the one who's actually to blame, or are there other people that should also get that blame, or is there anyone to blame? So we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about it, kind of go over how the business works, and we're going to just dissect what exactly is happening and if the fan outrage is warranted at all. So here we go. Hey, buddy.
Hi, buddy. Let's burn down all of Warner Brothers, all of these terrible movies that James Gunn greenlit. You know, when he was making Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but then also running this studio. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so there's so much that we could talk about that it's absolutely insane. But there's also a lot of other stuff I wanted to go into before let's kind of like talk the other realms of the nerd world right now.
Okay.
Before we jump right into it, because I feel like a lot of people kind of enjoy our casual discussions. First thing, we talked about this before we started. You finally got me to do it. I bought a Magic the Gathering pack, but it was Lord of the Rings themed, so it was my compromise.
I was about to say it's your favorite IP. It is the IP that you would love to see more of more than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, so I bought the pack. I love it. I love the random art cards that they put in there. My special cards, I got Merry, Gandalf, and Gimli's Fury. I thought those were really cool. The art is just gorgeous on these cards. And the controversy that seems to be going about toward Wizards of the Coast for making these cards, it's a funny controversy because it's a controversy that's pretty much fans of the lore, like faithful purists of the lore, and everyone else. And one of the biggest controversies is the designs of how they've kind of racially swapped some characters, because Wizards of the Coast, as well as kind of, I guess, casual fans and not quite the hardcore fans, but like the hardcore, some variation of fans, they're all basically saying kind of the same thing. Like, Tolkien never specified in his body of work.
So they not? What was the review process? Did no one from the Tolkien team? I mean, obviously these things had to have been approved by Tolkien, by his estate.
So his estate seems to be not caring about these things, right? I mean, their estate is like, we will say yes to the deals that we like as long as they appease us. But those deals don't seem to follow what Tolkien would have liked. Like, I can tell you, for instance, I personally...
Well, one more question for you before we get into that. Who is this? The group that bought all of the rights that made this happen, or this is the original? This is the son.
This is the Tolkien estate, the family. So This isn't the Embracer group who now has all of the movie licensing and all that stuff. It's the other people.
Okay,
the actual family. But I've always said that the problem with family licensing is pretty straightforward, because take, for instance, your grandpa makes something amazing and then he dies, and now you're in control of it. Imagine your modern day politics, your modern day views of the world. None of those mesh up with your grandpa, but somehow you're supposed to not only honor his creation, but not inject your views into it. But that never happens with people who run estates. So Tolkien, yes, he never specified that Aragorn was black, right? He never did. But, and here's the big but, Tolkien repeatedly stated that his views of Middle-earth was meant to be the mythology of ancient England, and that the people of ancient England were meant to be the people that reflected Middle-age England, i.e., the white people of ancient England, right? That's basically, he described that Middle-earth and the stories of Lord of the Rings were meant to be the mythology of the people who came before all of these people, right? And it's no different than, say, a company, a modern day company saying, I want to make a story about ancient Egypt and cast a bunch of white people, or make a story about ancient Greece and cast a bunch of black people. Like, the reality is
Well,
that it's the same
isn't
thing,
right? Isn't
right?
this the issue that they run into with all the anime adaptations, where very clearly the Japanese are like, these are Japanese characters, so
Yeah,
unless you are casting them from Japanese actors, you're already changing the meaning of the show.
right, exactly. And that's kind of like the same telltale argument. It's like, a lot of people say, oh, inclusion only goes one way. It has to be all the races but white people. But the actual argument is that inclusion doesn't apply to certain things. I mean, there's a reason why Netflix's Cleopatra was banned in Egypt, and not only banned in Egypt, but is now being ridiculed, and the production company is being sued by the body of Egyptian history because of how they changed everything about Cleopatra, right? Some people are very, they basically say, yes, racism can exist, racism does exist, but in terms of history, you can't rewrite history to fit a modern day narrative. And that's kind of what a lot of these fans are upset about, is that they're including all of these things into the Tolkien mythology that didn't exist in the mythology. And if you know what he said in his journals and his writings, they didn't exist for a reason.
But isn't this the Tolkien estate being asleep at the wheel? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, somebody showed them portraits of the cards that, that, I mean, they were probably giving a name. And I also wonder, what is how authentic are the other cards? Right? Like Gimli's Rage. Okay, I understand that. There's
No.
probably,
To be fair, all right. So here's Boromir, right? He's got kind of reddish hair, so that kind of
okay.
fits the written description. Here's Smeagol, little kind of whitish dude.
Yeah,
That
but
kind
he's
of
not,
fits the description.
right, because he's not Gollum yet.
Yep. The Urukai, they're still kind of
Okay.
orc looking, right? Here's Samwise Gamgee
Okay.
and
He looks,
Smeagol. They
yeah.
look exactly how you imagine them in the books,
Yeah.
right? Merry is the same way. Gandalf the White is still a white dude,
Sure. It's in
and
his name.
Gimli still has the red beard and white skin. Like, literally everybody was faithful to the descriptions of the book, but Aragorn. And that's why fans are kind of like, what the hell? You literally race bent one character, but the king of men. So
Okay.
people are kind of like
Well,
annoyed.
okay. Well, do you think this will affect Magic sales? Do you think
No,
that this
no,
is
because the
okay?
sales, nobody, as the controversy aside, everyone and their mom was after the One Ring. And the moment that the One Ring was found, the sales went in. No one cared anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a
there was
real, it's
literally
like Willy
box
Wonka.
sets.
It's literally like Willy Wonka,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There was a golden ticket and
It
somebody
was.
found it.
It was funny because you were seeing boxes like the master boxes, like the $200, like here's 50 boosters boxes going for sale, and they were kind of playing the Schrodinger's cat kind of a thing. It may be in this box or it may not be in this box, but either way, it's for $1,000. And people were like, "Oh, I'm going to buy it because there's a moment the card was found." People were like, "Moving on."
It's funny. That is such a tough business, the card business. And you see, there's guys that do it on YouTube. It's a tough gig. I hope that boom helped card
Yeah,
shops
card
and comic
sharks.
book shops. But
Yeah.
I also feel bad that it's like, well, what do they do with all this inventory? You can't discount it, right? And maybe it's like, are you able to pick up a complete edition more cheaply now because a bunch of people opened up all the cards and really they only wanted one card?
Yeah. I mean, hopefully. I mean, I honestly adore the cards. I mean, yes, it's kind of like with some of the racials changing. To me, it's no different than when Amazon did it, and Amazon did it with the state's permission, the same people that said, yeah, this is not an issue, but at the same time, if Tolkien was alive today, he wouldn't be people would call him a racist, right? But he would also explain why his views were the way they were. So it's kind of a catch-22.
You should not buy packs. You should just wait to buy the whole set when it's out. Because where do you buy the cards from? Is there a 7-Eleven that sells them?
No, it was a comic, my local comic shop. I picked up the booster, and then I went back the next day to pick up more, and they were out. So they had like 5 boosters that came in. I bought one of the 5, and
are they having more come in? Did you confirm with them there?
More are coming in. So
Okay.
next time they come in, I'll buy another pack. But even then, the packs are insane. It was
How much
like
are packs? How much are a
like
pack of cards?
12 cards. It was like $8. I was like,
Wow.
damn,
To put
that's
that in
that's weird.
perspective, kids, at the height of Yu-Gi-Oh, packs were like 3.25.
Yeah, and even still now, Pokemon cards are $3. So
Okay.
I was like, okay, that's a lot. But I mean, there's no way that anyone in the world will ever get the full set unless they buy $2 million Post Malone's 1-for-1 card. However, that same 1-for-1 card does have an English version, and you can still get that version. But the one that's made 1-for-1 will never be seen again, except for in Post Malone's trophy room.
Yeah, he'll put it on a necklace and wear it
So
around
that's
like
the thing.
Logan Paul.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. I should. I think that's a hell of a thing to brag about. He's like, I have the one ring. I could be the Dark Lord if I choose to, or I could be the benevolent Lord who's
You
keeping it
can't
from Sauron. Like he can.
you can't do anything with it. You got to put it in a piece of plastic and stick it in a vault because you don't want it to get any sun damage.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but it's kind of funny. The whole thing is ridiculous, but it's kind of just one of those things. Like now they have more expansions coming up. They've got a Fallout expansion, an Assassin's Creed expansion, and a Final Fantasy expansion. And fans know.
The only one of those I give a shit about is the Final Fantasy one.
Yeah,
The Fallout one is, I get it, but I've never thought about Magic as like a
well,
technology
it doesn't
game.
seem it doesn't work in my mind. The Assassin's Creed one, we'll see what they do. I mean, they may, I don't know, but the same controversy can still exist there because what if they make Squall a black dude, right, or something like that? You know, like you have certain limited number of
I
characters.
Yeah, I don't think Square Enix would allow it.
No, they wouldn't because more people don't realize this, but Japan is a very conservative country, and that's just the best way to put it. Like,
Well,
so they wouldn't allow racial swapping of their characters. That's just
I
how they
also
are.
don't know if they would allow. They just don't. They're so
They won't
protective
do
of
it.
their IP,
They are.
and you know what I mean. Is specifically in the way that things are presented.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
look at
I say they're very conservative, not in the fact that it's like a whole island of Republicans, but in the sense that they don't allow people to reimagine their characters without their direct approval. They're basically conservative to the origins of what they create. If the art is a certain way, the art is going to stay that way. And if anyone is going to change it, it will be them and within reason. So I don't think they would allow Wizards of the Coast to go buck wild and just do whatever they want with this IP. They'll be micromanaging the crap out of the art that comes out of that set.
I told Taylor,
But
and I'll tell all of you. I hope they just take screenshots from the game. That's such a celebrated world of art. I would love to see some of the guy. What's the name of the guy that did all the the Final Fantasy Tactics art?
oh, that guy. I like his art. I think he would do a cool set for that. But I'm not sure actually.
There's already so many good artists in house. I hope that they will also provide art for this. Now, here's the question I have for you, because now that they've set up that, we're going to release a card that we can guarantee its value is between $2 and $3 million. What do you think the Fallout card is? What do you think the Assassin's Creed's card is? And then probably we might be able to figure out the Final Fantasy VII card.
Okay, so the Fallout card could probably be the mini nuke, right? Like the ultimate weapon.
The one.
Assassin's Creed will probably be the Apple of Eden, like the one, like the main tool of the first few games. Final Fantasy, I could see it either being like a Moogle or a Divine Crystal, or even just like.
Could it be Bahamut? Could it be like a materia or something like that?
It could be like Bahamut Zero or Knights of the Round for like Final Fantasy VII, or like some ultimate like the Warrior of Light or something, right? So something that kind of encapsulates the brand as like this is the guy, this is the encapsulation of the character. I could see them doing something like that.
Also, if Magic the Gathering is now getting Lord of the Rings and Fallout, I mean, I guess, did Magic the Gathering run out of ideas? They couldn't think of any more fantasy stories to do, or maybe this is easier?
Maybe. I don't know. It's a very interesting whole thing. So we'll see what happens with it.
Let's talk about all the other card games I love. Does Yu-Gi-Oh now get to do a set of another IP? Could they maybe incorporate some of this art? Like,
Honestly, I don't see Yu-Gi-Oh doing anything but Yu-Gi-Oh because Yu-Gi-Oh is like they have so much stuff on their own.
I could see a
Um,
Kingdom Hearts Yu-Gi-Oh instantly. The art matches one to one. One to one, you could do Kingdom Hearts in a Yu-Gi-Oh game, and it would be fantastic.
but they did something that was kind of cool. So they did a Yu-Gi-Oh anniversary box for 25th anniversary. And you brought this up because I saw it the other day. And I thought it was kind of cool. So the box, like these special packs, are like it's like they're in red or whatever. It says Yu-Gi-Oh 25 on them. Um, it's like they're small. They're like 5 card packs, right? And they're expensive, but each pack is like the hard damn card that existed in that set. And it's basically like opening up a pack and being like Charizard, 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 Charizard. Like that's
Cool.
essentially what it is. It's reprints of their strongest stuff. So I'm like, that's a pretty cool set to do. Like not to like reprint the original cards, but to be like, this is the anniversary edition of here's the Blue Eyes White Dragon, or here's what was that dude? Like the one that
Uh,
Yu-Gi-Oh always put together, like the big
he
Sphinx
has the
guy.
he has the yeah, he has the he has
Like
the ultimate sorcerer, whatever his name.
what was that thing? I don't know, but
Yeah,
stuff like
Celtic
that where it's just
Guardian.
like,
There was all the dragons are the ones that I like more. What was his name? Dark Sorcerer. That was his name. Because then there was Dark
something like
Magician
that. Yeah,
Girl.
but yeah, but it was like the whole set is basically like the best of the best, and I think that's kind of a cool thing to do. Like, why not do more of that? Like, obviously, the Black Lotus is like the most coveted card gathering, and they've only reprinted it one other time, and that reprint also became hella coveted. But
Also, if you're
there's other
doing
cards that are equally like insane.
if you're doing Final Fantasy in Magic the Gathering, like what I just feel like the door is now open. Like any fantasy world you want to see, let's do Chrono Trigger. Let's do any other JRPG. I mean, there's enough items and stuff like that that you're going to be able to just port over.
Yeah, don't tease me with that. I would love to see a Chrono Trigger setup. Like,
Is there any old RPGs that you would want to see reinterpreted like that?
obviously Chrono Trigger, Star Ocean would be a fun one.
Star
Um,
Ocean, yeah.
Let me think. I mean, there's so many good games that we played when we were younger. I mean, what if they did like a Knights of the Old Republic? Did they already do a Star Wars expansion? Like, it'd be cool to see a Knights of the Old
Mm.
Republic focused expansion, and like the one card is Revan or something like Masked Revan or Sith Lord Revan or Sith Master Revan or something like that. Something
I
insane.
I tried to play the Star Wars TCG. It was too smart for me. Danny
Yeah,
had cards. I never learned. You had to count your
I
force
bought a bunch of them
points.
just because I liked the pictures. That was how it
Sure,
was. Yeah,
sure. But that's how
but
all that stuff worked with Star Wars. That's why you bought it, because we wanted
yeah,
more Star Wars.
one more Star Wars. But since we've officially wasted 15 minutes of everyone's time, if you were strong enough to stick with us while we talked about trading cards, let's talk about everything that's been happening. So this last week has been the week where pretty much everyone was pissed off because so Gal Gadot last week said, "Oh, maybe I'm Wonder Woman. Maybe this is happening." She basically put out this interview where she said that she spoke to Peter Safran and James Gunn, and they told her that Wonder Woman's in good hands. They love seeing her play Wonder Woman, and they'll be working on a new Wonder Woman movie together. And everything she said is very vague and lawyer speak. She never once confirmed she was returning. She never once confirmed anything like that. But people always just automatically assumed. She said Wonder Woman 3, that means she's coming back. This is happening. Um, Late last week, after days of speculation and multiple articles all coming out saying that she's back, Variety and Deadline came out and said they spoke with representatives at the studio, and it was officially debunked. Gal Gadot is not returning as the DCU Wonder Woman, and moreover, they even confirmed that DCU does not have any current Wonder Woman plans outside of Paradise Lost. So immediately, Twitter went to this. James Gunn lied to her. She made herself look like a fool. James Gunn lied to her. James Gunn's the devil. Let's sharpen the pitchforks. Let's light the torches. James Gunn needs to burn. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, okay, first off, she never actually said she was returning. She said I'm working with them to make the next Wonder Woman movie.
And they never said she was in it. They just said Wonder Woman's in good hands and we care
Yeah.
about the character. They didn't say
Yeah.
it was
So
hers.
she never even said that they told me I'm coming back. They just like a lot of it could be like, okay, so it was all vague and inferred and everything like that. But again, James Gunn is the creative side of things, right? That doesn't mean he's the business side of things. Peter Safran is the business side of things. And if Peter Safran made the business decision to let her go, that's him, not James. And so, like, there's so many things. And even then, David Zaslav hired them to reboot. So, is it James that's fault? Is it David that's at fault? Is it Peter that's at fault? Or does it even matter at this point? And that's kind of the point I keep making is that we see everyone shifting all of their blame at James Gunn because he has been vocal on social media. But a few years ago, when everyone blamed Obama for everything, and then it turned into a thanks to Obama, that meme, like you can blame everything on one person, but at the end, it could be more unrelated than anything else. And I said it from the beginning that James Gunn never once announced Wonder Woman anything at the January conference. He never once announced Wonder Woman 3. And they did have meetings with everyone who was involved in the Justice League movies currently. And so far we know that Henry's situation didn't happen. He didn't get fired. He just didn't get rehired. We know that Ben had a conversation, but he ended up passing on everything that they offered him. We don't know what's going on with Jason.
I think the exact same thing happened with Gal Gadot.
Yeah.
She was not fired. She did they said you did a great job. You were the best Wonder Woman. We're not going to be moving forward with you.
Yeah. And they may have just said, hey, you did a great job. We may want to do this in the future. And if we are going to do this, we're going to work with you to do this. But the signifier is always the same thing. Like Hollywood is a moving, breathing, living object that changes from day to day. And we even know that there was legitimate plans to continue the DCEU after Black Adam, but when Black Adam didn't break even, there was a point that literally the day that they announced that Black Adam wasn't getting a sequel, that there was reports of the spinoffs getting greenlit. And it was all on the same day that I think Variety or Deadline published Black Adam's spinoffs, Hawkman and Dr. Fate, moving forward. They redacted the article after 30 seconds and then put up the Black Adam not moving forward with sequel. Like it was almost like there was conversations that were going to make all these happen, and then they decided no, didn't work out, reboot. And that's how Hollywood tends to work.
Well, it's funny because here, you know, probably James Gunn got some flack for the Black Adam movie, even though he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, he was only announced that he was going to be taking over after Black Adam came out.
But where does praise or jeers fall on the stuff that is coming out about the new Blue Beetle movie, which previews have been, people, I keep seeing people saying they were shockingly surprised that the movie was good, that there's a heart to the movie, that there's some fun stuff, that they enjoyed the chemistry between the actors, that, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, well now here's a movie that people are looking for. Do we praise him for that? Or again, he probably had very little to do with this.
I'm pretty sure, as I've said before, he's had nothing to do with almost everything coming out. Like the big machine was already turning, the gears were running, the wheels were on the ground. Like there was, at this point, he could watch the cut and say, oh, yeah, that works. Or, hey, maybe here's a note, maybe change this one thing. But he's not going to go back in and rehaul the entire project because he's too busy dealing with his own stuff.
Right.
So it's like blaming him for business decisions is kind of laughable when he's already been announced that he's not the business guy.
Do you think all this pops up again when Aquaman comes out and we have 100%. To talk and all of the blame will get shifted? This same conversation will pop up in another way. And then that's the day we'll find out that the Black Manta sequel got canceled and all the other, whatever else was supposed to come of that world.
Yeah, it's going to be the exact same thing. Like people are going to see the movie and say, why did Black Manta threatened to flood the earth. Why is this whole movie a PSA about global warming? How dare James Gunn give this movie to us? When in fact, the movie was shot, filmed, and written and all that stuff before he came into the picture. So it's going to be just like people are just going to constantly blame him. He'll breathe and people will blame him. So it's like it's really hard to appease fans like that because at this point, Gal Gadot said what she said. She never once said that she was returning as Wonder Woman. She quoted them giving vague responses. And then somehow, that was a really weird looking yawn, Michael.
And I didn't want to make it vocal. I didn't want to make it too obvious, but
yeah,
I had
you
a
were
little
like
bit
this.
of a
You're
yawn.
like,
yeah, it came out really weird. It came out really weird. Listen, I didn't want for that to happen like that.
Yeah. I just looked over and it looked like you were scowling at me.
No,
I'm, like,
I'm not scowling.
Okay.
I had a weird yawn, but I didn't want it to look like a yawn.
Yeah. So you're like,
yeah, it came out like a weird sniff. Okay. I just thought you would be like, he's into sniffing now.
No, I know exactly what it is. We've known each other for 30 years. I knew exactly what you were doing. But
when do we get to praise James Gunn for the work he's done? When do we even start seeing the work that he's done?
The only point that people can praise or damn James Gunn is when Superman Legacy comes out. If the movie's fantastic, then he gets the praise. If the movie's a dumpster fire, then everyone can light their pitchforks. Because that's the only real litmus test of what he's doing. Because again, he's not the business decision. He is the one moving forward with the creative side of things as long as those creations are successful.
Not this cartoon, not the first cartoon of the Creature Commandos, not the Peacemaker Season 2. All of that stuff is still...
Well, I mean, he even said that Peacemaker Season 2, he won't even be able to work on it until after he's already started working on Superman. Creature Commandos was bought and commissioned by Walter Hamada. So if that's successful, then sweet. If it's not, do you really blame him or do you blame Walter Hamada for greenlighting the thing and overseeing the thing? Like, There's so many things. Like, there's so much that you can kind of say, yeah, this is his fault, but you can also say, but it was also the Suicide Squad happened because Walter Hamada wanted him to make a rated R DC film of the vein of Marvel. So is it his fault for giving them what they asked for, or is it his fault for not fighting them and getting fired? Like, you gotta have to look at, like, the only point you can really judge him is based on what happened when he had control. And Creature Commandos was a project, yes, that he wrote, that he had done, but the project was already moving forward and going and being recorded and scripts were approved before he took over DC. Like, the fact that the show is already done, quote, means it was started beforehand. Because we now know My Adventures with Superman, it's 5 episodes in, just had its 5th episode. This project was greenlit in 2019. So that tells you how long that process went. I'm willing to bet
2019 and it only saw the light of day now.
Yeah. I'm willing to bet that Creature Commandos was greenlit and commissioned while he was filming the Suicide Squad. The same how Peacemaker was, because that's how these projects work. And then even Waller, I heard about the Waller project while he was filming Suicide Squad. And back then it was supposed to be Waller versus Checkmate. And now they just called it Waller. So, but even now, he even said that the Waller project is not even being run by him.
Well, it makes me also wonder. I feel like, these properties are going so much far away from the comic books. I wonder if a general audience, Checkmate doesn't mean anything to a general audience. You know what I mean? That's not a villain that they are anticipating.
Not at all.
Where, like, every one of Batman's villains are so iconic. You know what I mean? You mentioned any of those ones. I was going to pitch you, there should be a reality show where you get to be the next Robin. You make people do, like, physical challenges, but then, like, brain challenges, and you have Alfred host the show. You could do it like Legends of the Hidden Temple. They go on, like, mini missions. I think this show could happen.
That'd be a funny show. Like, be Batman's sidekick. Like, and then
And it's and you can and Batman never shows up to the show. You could maybe have like Nightwing show up and he's like, "Hey, you're Bet recruits. We might have some of you. Some of you probably look to your left, look to your right. One of these people is going to be dead." You know what I mean? Like it's very serious. And then each week we'd see him like climb a rope the fastest or like defuse a bomb. Yeah, I think it would be a great show.
Or disarm a bad guy without breaking his collarbone.
Yeah, like that would be great. Or like, or they'd use those gels, like when they shoot on Mythbusters, they shoot like a jelly man to see how many bones it breaks. Yeah.
Oh, ballistics gel? Yeah.
Yeah, make a jelly man and like, all right, take this guy out. It's like, oh, you broke his collarbone. This guy is dead. You can't. That's -5 points.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, he's the new Jason Todd. You're not going to be it.
Batman doesn't have any powers. Like, you couldn't do a Jedi Academy show because at a certain point, you're like, they're not really doing any of that stuff. You would have to climb the thing. You'd have to go through the obstacle
Ironically,
course.
they actually have a Jedi Academy show, but it's like Legend of the Hidden Temple, but for kids. Like
Speaking of Legends of the Hidden Temple, have you watched the new Takashi's Castle on Amazon? They greenlit the show where the people.
It's back?
It's back, Taylor. It's back. I've only watched 2 episodes of it. Brand new season. They got some throwback challenges. They got some like wipeout challenges. It's great watching people fall into the water.
I'm not even emotionally ready to go down to my couch and watch that because that's
it's subtitled so you can actually hear what they're talking about. It's crazy.
I'm so excited about that.
It's waiting for you.
That was a show we watched way too much when we were younger.
Well, they had the MXC version. It was like the funny version.
Yeah. That's good. But back to the point. You can kind of look at all of this stuff, all this selective outrage, right? That exists on social media because that's what it is. It is selective outrage. Because you see it every day at this point with DC and the branding. Zack Snyder tweeted his support of Blue Beetle, and already some of the Snyder fans who were hating on Zack are now accusing Zack, or not hating on James, are now accusing Zack of doing a favor for James or selling out or things like that. Like there is a selective outrage that seems to exist with DC that defies logic at some points, and it does this with every medium. Star Wars fans do it. Marvel fans do it. Like, is there a point when reality is just being blatantly ignored and we just keep letting these people just run their delusions like they're gospel truths? Like it's kind of insane that this is happening almost daily now. They're making drama out of nothing, and it still happens.
Yeah, and I also wonder at a certain point, like, as Disney is slowly cutting back on projects, like when do we just not get a year of Star Wars again? We didn't get Star Wars for like 20 years. I feel like that's what's going to happen again.
It might be. And I hope it doesn't, because as much as Star Wars has been kind of a up and down roller coaster, I still believe that even the bad Star Wars is still Star Wars. I mean, I have been very critical of certain Star Wars projects, but at the same time, they're still good enough to some of it, and I'm legitimately looking forward to.
But nobody says that. But nobody.
That show looks so good.
But nobody says that about DC, right? Nobody says like, well, maybe that movie wasn't my cup of tea, but it was still Superman. People don't say it like that. They're either all in on it or they just tear it down.
And that's what's happening so much lately, is that the fan bases for Marvel and DC are becoming so ride or die that it's becoming, and I just don't know how to react to some of it, like, and I said this, so the other day I did sort of a litmus test on social media, and I got people pretty bad, and it was pretty funny, because so it was the day that they actually announced that Variety actually announced that the Wonder Woman stuff was all nonsense, right? And so I put on social media, I started this whole, and I started off with saying, I hate to break it to everyone, but I am closing down TCN. This isn't going to work anymore. Sorry that has to do it this way, but I will see you all when I see you, kind of a thing. Just like boom, and then like two sentences. Like I put the statement in the middle of the story, and then the paragraph beneath it. I said, if you've read this far, then I want to let you know that it was all fake. But I wanted to point out that some people don't even read this far. They make their judgment, and they don't even care to read the context of what's happening, but they don't continue to reading the story. And then I kind of went on and explained that's what we get nowadays. Like when you and I were kids, we didn't have the luxury of finding out every spoiler and detail of the movie before the movie came out. We didn't even know that Michael Keaton wasn't Batman anymore till the trailer for Batman Forever came out. And we didn't know that Kilmer wasn't Batman until the trailer for Batman and Robin came out. Like movies could have their entire production cycle finished before people knew. Now we have it like Hugh Jackman shows up on set and people are like, oh, guess who also was on set? And we know things about movie finish filming. And
Yeah, I mean, look how much
it's made
stuff.
it so hard for people to allow things to exist.
Yeah, I mean, look how much stuff we've already seen from Deadpool 3. We haven't seen specifics, but like, I don't know, costumes and
Mhm.
stuff like that. That's all big stuff.
Yeah. There are so many rumors about that movie in particular that at this point, it's like I just want to stop listening and be like, guys, I just want to enjoy movies again. Because when I was younger, that's how it was. Go to the movie and say, oh man, there's a new James Bond, and it's not Timothy Dalton. We said, oh, there's a new James Bond. Let's see how this new guy does it. Because people just knew that movies will continue to be made regardless of cast and crew.
I don't ever think we can ever get back to that world again to make these things. I mean, maybe, maybe some of it is like, they need to try harder, or maybe there's less interest because, like, I feel like a lot of the Barbie stuff, they talked about how pink the set was, but like a lot of that stuff was not spoiled. It was able to be happen on screen. I mean, I don't know. Do you ask these outlets don't report on this comic book movie because they're going to do it?
I think it kind of just comes back to the nature of the beast. I mean, social media. I've always kind of believed that social media can be a great tool, but we have misused it. Like Oppenheimer is one of those movies where you see the noble intentions of certain people, and then you see the great misuse of the technology that's being made.
Right.
And basically, like how social media is today. Like social media was made to connect us, and now social media has become an all-consuming metaphysical deity that is now enslaving people.
I mean,
And
I have a Facebook because I have an Instagram. So Facebook is there. I don't go on it. And
right,
Twitter really changed fast. Even before Twitter was Elon Musk, it became a place I was like interacting with less and less.
right. And I felt like I just wanted to be off of Twitter. And then when Elon Musk took over, a lot of the changes he made I liked. And then all of a sudden it was like, wow, so the toxic people got more toxic and the regular people joined in on the toxicity. So it's like, okay, it's like no one can exist in neutral gray anymore. It's either one of two extremes, and you have to operate in extremes. And social media encourages that unhealthy extreme behavior.
Mm.
It's it's really hard to see this constantly and be like, yeah, this was good for you. We social media was a good idea. You see this stuff and you're like, oh no, I see why this was
Well,
a
it's
mistake.
not the bullet. We thought it was going to be the bulletin board to humanity, right? Like when Twitter started, it would be like, right, at Taylor Murphy got an ice cream, right? Like you know what I mean? Like statements of what you did,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And now,
right.
I mean, it's not even that because there's so many other elements that have bastardized it. I mean, even the act
Yeah,
of sharing pictures of your family also now to some extent has, shade attached to it because it's like, well, what are you trying to garner out of this picture? What are you trying to show me out of this thing?
There was that one. There's that one. This is like a meme or something that perfectly encapsulates how social media has become. And it was like the statement was, "I like apples," and then the first comment is, "But what about oranges?" And then the next comment, "I see that you hate oranges, you orange hate." Like it's things like that. Like we can post a picture of our kids, and people will be like, "Oh, I see that he likes his kids more than your kids." I'm like, "No, I just like my kids." Like, how is that an issue? Like, but that's what social
Sure.
media has become. Is that we add subtext toxicity, we add controversy where it doesn't need to be. And with things like superhero movies, yes, these characters are very important to us. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, these are the characters that are meant to be like the gods among men. These are the characters that are meant to inspire generations. But now have hashtags like not my Superman or not my Wonder Woman, things like that. And it's like, but what's going to happen to the rest of the world? Like, do they share with this myopic view of how you visit the world? Because a lot of people threatened to boycott the Batman before it came out because not my sparkly Batman, Pattinson's not my Affleck. And then the movie came out and people were like, damn, well, that was really good. Maybe we'll just skip over the controversy of Robert Pattinson and pretend that we all loved him the whole time. When
Yeah,
my buddy broke the
they had
news.
no confidence in him, and nobody had
Yeah.
any confidence in that movie, and that movie was so good.
Which is funny because my buddy broke the news and then I echoed that, saying, yes, Pattinson's going to be a fantastic Batman. And every time I posted anything about Pattinson being got dozens of your opinion sucks. This movie's going to suck. I'm going to watch. I want to come back to this and point out how you were wrong. Then the movie came out and people were like, everyone who hated on the movie pretended all of a sudden they supported it the entire time. And it's going to be the same way with Superman. I honestly watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3 again the other day.
Yeah.
And again, my confidence that James Gunn can pull off a Superman film is still there. That movie has all the right heart. It has all the action. And if you look at some of the scenes where Adam Warlock is flying around through the explosions and just imagine him wearing a red cape, you're like, oh, damn, this is going to be a really cool Superman film. Right?
I thought the same thing. I thought the Adam Warlock stuff, I was like, this is what Superman's going to be like. And we're going to see facial expressions and we're going to see him like, you know what I mean? It's Superman, so you'll never see him sweat. So it'll be like, please stop punching me now. But we're going to see all of that stuff.
Right. So I'm just as confident as I was with pretty much every superhero movie because I learned back in 2007, 2006, 2007 when they announced Heath Ledger as Joker. I learned right then to shut my mouth and to wait for movies to show me what they're doing. Because when I saw Chris Nolan announce Heath Ledger as Joker, I looked at it and I was like, part of me wants to freak the hell out. But Heath Ledger's a good actor, and Chris Nolan just earned all of my respect with Batman Begins and The Prestige. Let the guy cook. And that's kind of how, even back when we were like 18, I was like, yeah, this is probably a good idea that we just let this see this one through. Then they released the first picture. Then they released the second picture. And the more he released, the more I was like, okay, good thing I didn't outrage over this because this looks cool.
And yeah, and he made it so much of his own. You know what I mean? I feel like that, you know, even when you see that Joker, the context of that Joker is so much more powerful in the movie. I feel like the power of that character resonates with people because of the movie. You know, him as the Joker, I don't know, he's closer to Joaquin Phoenix, you know what I mean? Like it's not the other Joker, and now it's like that is the Joker for a lot of people.
And at the same reference you just made, when Joaquin Phoenix was announced as doing a Joker movie, everyone shit on the project, and then the movie exploded, and now everyone quotes it incessantly, and now everyone is like treating that movie as like one of the best movies of all time. But it's the selective outrage seems to only exist until they're proven wrong.
Well,
and they go into these things where like,
should we guess what the collective outrage is going to be over Joker 2?
Oh, I mean, the collective outrage was the moment they cast Lady Gaga in the role. That was the outrage. She can't be Harley Quinn. It's a musical. I don't want to watch it. The first one was perfect. I don't need a sequel. I, for one, think the movie's going to be fantastic, and Lady Gaga has proven herself doing some dark ass shit, so I think she can pull it off.
I do too. She doesn't mind making herself ugly. She doesn't mind, she likes the avant-garde outfits and stuff like that. The dream sequences they're going to do with musical numbers, it's going to be really fun.
Yeah. So it's not going to be a musical in the sense that everything's musical in this world. It's going to be a musical in the sense that Lady Gaga's psychosis makes her see the world in music form, but the rest of the world is still equally shitty.
Yeah, and I wonder how they're going to be. I wonder if Joker is the cause of her schizophrenia, or if he just finds her broken and takes advantage of her. Not like that, but takes advantage of like her status to like do some, some Joker mastermind plan.
I have so many questions, and I'm patiently waiting, and I'm thinking the latter for you. Like that.
Where do you
That's what I
think
think
we?
is happening. Is that
Where do you think we jump
maybe, yeah,
in?
maybe he inspires her, but maybe
Where do you think we jump
a
in
couple
that
years later.
world? Do you think the Joker is a kingpin, or is he on the up and at 'em, or do you think we just see him the next day back in his mom's apartment?
I think he's still going to be in Arkham when we show up in the movie. That he's still locked away, and that's where I expect it to go.
And Harley Quinn
So
is going to be his psychologist, and we see them having long conversations and dance sequences.
maybe
Maybe.
that'd be fun. I think that'd be a cool take on it.
And then he gasses her or something to get her out of there. Just something horrific to her to make her
Yeah.
turn into Harley Quinn.
But honestly, the more I see this stuff online, I kind of just point out that I don't think there's anyone to really blame for these things. I think just as we saw with the writer's strike and we saw with the actor's strike now, Hollywood is going to change yet again for the umpteenth thousand. The selective outrage that exists for certain projects that probably will never see the light of day is a moot point because the projects have died or the projects are dying. Dozens of projects that we never knew existed are already over. But people aren't giving things a proper chance. We don't even know what Gunn is actually doing until we see the next project he's behind. We don't even know how Blue Beetle is going to turn out, and it comes out later this week. But the praise is there by people. I know a few people who saw it already and said it was okay, and that's fine. I'm going to see the movie. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, but I also don't think it's going to be fun enough to exist beyond anything else that's happened with DC or Marvel lately because movie theaters are seeing. People aren't seeing movies anymore. So
people will go see.
Who's to blame for all this stuff?
Well, the economy, lots of other reasons. People will go see spectacle movies, but those are few and far between. And these cinematic Marvel pieces that are a lot like comic books now, they are not what the public is looking for.
Yep. So I think in the end, when people say, "Oh, James Gunn is ruining this, James Gunn is ruining that," I don't think it is. I think the reason why these things are changing, everything are shifting and moving, is the circumstances. The economy's in a crap place. Audiences aren't caring enough anymore. The fad has faded away. And maybe they got to get creative again to get people attention there. But at this point, people who said James Gunn fired Gal Gadot, I also like to point out that the last Wonder Woman movie wasn't a banger at the box office.
It did zero, right? It did zero. It did zero at the box office, right? Like it didn't even have a try.
Yeah, so I don't think at this point people are being honest or realistic with how they view these things. But I think that's probably be a good spot to wrap.
Not necessarily that we want to end on a downer, but I think that people need to chill out and wait for the work to happen before we can jump on the bandwagon. But if you want to jump on our bandwagon, head on over to the patreon.com/theculturednerd. That's how you can help keep the lights on. We have a list of wonderful individuals that help do all of that. Look at all those fine, fancy people. Thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to us. Your host, Taylor Murphy, me, your co host, Michael Santel. If you have those cell phones, whip them out, give that a scan. It's a silly thing to say, but the algorithm needs it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us be more visible. It helps us be more visible for you. Thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to see how all of this manifests in the next week or so. He's been Taylor. I'm Michael Santel, and we'll see all you kids and cats next time.
Bye.
Bye.